Good morning and welcome to our workshop this morning. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Let's people sign on and get started about 10:01.
Morning, y'all.
Morning once again and welcome to our workshop today. We'll get started here in a minute, just allowing people to log on. Have a great turnout, see a lot of friendly faces and see some new faces too, so welcome. Well, good morning and welcome to the City of Brentwood's workshop today on business intelligence. We have a great showing today, and obviously people are excited to hear from Redbox Solution, from Shauna Phippen and Carrie. So we welcome them. Just a little bit of kind of introductions first. So my name is Darren Gale. I'm the Assistant City Manager here in the City of Brentwood in the East Bay, just outside the San Francisco Bay, or in the San Francisco Bay area. These workshops are a monthly workshop that the city puts on. And the idea is that we do these virtually, so we're able to record them. We put them on YouTube, and then as we're helping businesses throughout the year, we can direct them to these videos. But also, this is an interactive session. So Sean will be giving a presentation. I might be asking some questions, but we'd love to hear from you. So please use the chat, use the Q&A, and then towards the end, raise your hand, and we'll provide opportunities for live questions. And beyond myself in the city's economic development team, I want to introduce our economic development manager, Ricardo Noguera, and also our senior analyst here in the office, Abraham Salinas. We are bilingual here in our office and with Spanish speakers. So if you have a Spanish-speaking business, please have them reach out to us because we'd love to provide them services. And we're excited about today. So our first item of business is I want to turn the time over to Ricardo. The city of Brentwood really has an exciting opportunity, and we call it our Innovation Center. And I'm going to allow Ricardo to kind of kick us off and talk a little bit about it. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Well, good morning, everyone. You can hear me, hopefully. So the city has been working on this Innovation Center as the last large undeveloped parcel in the city. This has traditionally been a bedroom community, and what we're trying to do now, especially as we've had all these tech and healthcare workers locate in Brentwood over the past 20 plus years, is attract industry to Brentwood so these folks do not have to commute across the Bay Area and utilize 3 to 4 hours a day traveling. So this is a 200 plus acre site located straddling Highway 4 between Lone Tree Way and Sand Creek Road. It's all privately owned. The city does not own it, but the city has completed quite a bit to prepare for developers and businesses. We've completed a programmatic EIR and a specific plan. We already have some work underway. The city has completed a extension of Sand Creek Road, which I'm happy to declare will open in the next few weeks, a $13 million project, which will extend from Highway 4 to Hydron Ranch Road, opening up more than 100 acres of land on the west side of Highway 4, especially the area in purple. The area to the far north on the northwest side is Lone Tree Plaza, And that triangle just below that, above the McCollum Trail, is Costco. And Costco will open in March, the first week of March. We're very excited about that because it's attracting more and more retailers and other developers who want to come to Brentwood. The other area, the other project I want to share is Streets of Brentwood. Streets of Brentwood is right below the land use plan, the legend on this map. It was recently purchased by Senecal, one of the largest West Coast retail shopping owners in California. And they're planning some major renovations to this lifestyle center over the next couple of years. Just above the trail on the east side, the area in yellow is Blossoms at Brentwood, a 288 unit complex that was finished in 2023. So the area, especially for you business folks, that we're focused on now is in purple. We're trying to attract both campus and business park developers as well as companies. So if you know companies in Silicon Valley or in the Bay Area in general that are looking to either expand eastward or to establish satellite offices, have them contact our office and we can put them in touch with the owners. The last thing I want to share is this brown area on the west side. That's the mixed use area. And this is an area that may be appealing to you, to some of you chamber members. We are looking to bring in a developer that will recreate a town center type project with mixed use ground floor commercial spaces. So spaces that are anywhere from 10,000 square feet or less. That could be part of this mixed use development. So with that, I will pass it back to Darren, and feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Ricardo. As Ricardo said, we're here in the Bay Area. And we're the place to locate your growing business. We're within an hour of the San Jose International Airport, the Oakland Airport, the San Francisco Airport, and just a little over an hour from the Sacramento International Airport. 4 airports, all within an hour. This is the place to be. We're a reverse commute for all of your employees. We have over 100 parks. Quality of life is what the city of Brentwood's all about. So let's get into our program today. So very excited. We have a powerful message from an industry leader, from Shauna Phippen. She's a local city of Brentwood resident and local business that's operated right here in our great town. And I've gotten to know her through Rotary. Just a little bit about her. Shauna co-founded the Redbox Solutions, which is a women-owned business. And she's passionate about a couple things. And I had lunch with her yesterday. And so obviously today we're going to talk about business intelligence, maybe a little AI and technology. But I tell you, one of the things that she's really passionate about is people and how people play a key role into a growing business. And today, or Redbox Solution is a concierge level managed service provider and a cybersecurity firm. They're providing technology needs here locally throughout the Bay Area, but not just here, but across the nation. And she has a team of award-winning experts that deliver the highest level of service in the industry. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Shauna. Thank you for your time, and look forward to hearing more with your presentation today.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate that. And good morning to everybody, all you hardworking movers and shakers. I was pretty blown away that we had over 100 businesses register for this webinar and business intelligence workshop. So super impressed with Brentwood and all the great things, not only our city, but all the companies and those in attendance are doing, and the companies beyond that are here. You know, we have organizations from all around the nation in this session, and we even have one representing in South America, representing a real estate company here in town, WR Properties. So super excited about that. I don't exaggerate when I say that we're really blessed to be part of some of the most powerful business communities in the world. So I thank everybody for being here. And the purpose of this workshop really is to level up our business game, our business intelligence game, if you will. We have everything from solopreneurs here in attendance, all the way up to enterprise size organizations with hundreds of employees. So this really is not going to be a real technical deep dive for those of you that are in technology and joining from IT departments. It's not going to be about mitigating business risk, why penetration testing is so critical for companies today, why you need an expertly designed cybersecurity stack to protect your assets. So if you're tuning in for that, join us for another show because we do plenty of those. But today really is having a conversation around business smarts, which really incorporates emotional intelligence and in this day and age, artificial intelligence and the way it's shaping our companies and our economic growth. And just like Darren said, we want to keep it fun and light and engaging and collaborative. So please pop your questions in the chat and let's sit back and enjoy and have a fun ride. So we really wanted to kick this off by thanking Brentwood, our Brentwood leadership and the city and what we have done to scale out our community, and the economic development department has done some awesome things. And just like bringing these workshops to you, our community is phenomenal, but there's a few things that really light us up. And our network infrastructure is remarkable in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a really standout, and that's been by design since the early years of the adoption of the city. The farm to table cuisine is amazing, and we just love the values of this community. You know, I think Darren and Ricardo really hit it home that it's such a phenomenal place to raise a family, be of service, and intentionally grow companies. So we appreciate everything that y'all are doing at the Economic Development Department and our service leaders in the city being of service to make this community the place that it is.
So Shauna, one quick question. Where you're currently located in the city of Brentwood, so what you're saying is you have all of your high, what's the word I'm looking for? I started to say internet. So fiber optic connections that provides everything that you need for your business right here?
Yeah, the fiber optic infrastructure from the get-go was phenomenal, and it just continues to expand with the various providers that are coming in and rolling it out. So, yep, appreciate you putting that out there. So a quick mention about who Redbox is. Not everybody here knows who we are, what we do, you know, and why are we talking about business intelligence and artificial intelligence? I think the AI part is relatively obvious. Every news channel, magazine, everywhere you go, it's AI, this and that. This is our leadership and professional services team, and I'm so honored to work with them every day. They're highly trained professionals. You know, Darren really kind of hit on the extensive experience of business management, cybersecurity, compliance, including on staff team members with CISSPs and high-level credentials. But really, we're looking at this from a business growth and people perspective. Darren had mentioned a passion for people. That does not fall short in our organization. Our team is, you know, thrown under fire quite regularly because fighting cybercrime and keeping technology services up and running. Our managed service providers like us are really the backbone of the nation's economy, because without our computers or any of our technology, it's a little tough for any of us to do our jobs these days. So, you know, we don't just provide technical services, we help grow organizations and have done so very effectively, from zero in revenue to hundreds of millions. And an interesting tidbit or fun fact, is we actually did some of the network infrastructure, the basic firewalls and inside wire and cable for some of San Francisco's leading AI startups, because, you know, the city is only about an hour away, and Centers for AI Control is one of those. And those were real exciting projects. So we got to see the inside of some of these AI companies before they even got rolling out. And that kind of gave us a lot of lead time when it came to artificial intelligence. So I have a question. I'd like to poll the audience because I love collaboration input. Who can tell me what are the two most important components to every business today? Do we got anyone in the audience, or everyone should be jumping in and throwing something out in there about what they think are the most important things, facets and components to businesses today? And I might not be able to see. Oh, I love it. People and process. Thank you very much, Justin. Relationships are awesome. Systems and processes, human capital, marketing and sales. Love the engagement, love the thinking. There's really no wrong answer. I mean, even if it's like a delicious burrito, that's an important component at lunch, but we've got some good responses here. And really all of those responses fall into the category of our next slide, streamline systems and operations, customer data marketing, customer service. Thank you, President Carey of the Chamber of Commerce, and Cynthia. So yeah, really the two most important components, which everybody's really touching on. So great to see some familiar faces in here, leadership and people. So yes, all of those really fall into these two components, which are people and technology. At the end of the day, that is what's building. And Elizabeth Clark, I see you just chimed in. People, 100%. You know, you need good quality leadership and good people to run good organizations. And in this day and age, you really need good technology that's helping those people maximize their time and making the organization as efficient as possible. So our goal today is going to touch a little bit on the people, which our lens will be from an emotional intelligence or leadership perspective, and then also on the technology. And we're going to hit it high level with AI, but we're not going to get real deep in the weeds on any particular type of AI application. There's plenty of time and opportunity to learn more about that from our team. But our goal is always, with everything we do, to bring the maximum value and come to play all out. You know, we're here digging in, so do not hesitate if you have questions, feedback, anything else, to jump in. I encourage you all to play all out and soak this up intentionally. Number two is, we're really going to try to, in a short period of time, simplify and demystify business intelligence. If you were to look up business intelligence online, the technical definitions are managing data process and analysis for organizations to help make them run more effectively. For the purpose of this conversation, business intelligence really is emotional intelligence, like leadership, and artificial intelligence or strategic technology coming together. And then number three, are you AI ready? You know, we're hearing so much about AI and its impact. And I checked into the Hyatt in San Diego last night, and I haven't been here for a little while, and all the elevators are AI. All the, you know, I mean, it just blew my mind how much text is involved, or how much AI is involved with texting, customer service, you name it. But they really were able to roll out the red carpet for me through AI, and I really appreciated that. Not that that is always everybody's forte, but I understand that they're available and able to answer some quick questions in an automatic way, and can connect with me where a team member might not be able to because of resource limitations. So we're going to talk about, are you AI ready for this for at the end of the session here. And then we'll touch on an event that we welcome y'all to come to, an AI boot camp. We're going to be providing a VIP code free of charge for that as well. So unlocking emotional intelligence. I'd love anybody to chime in the chat if they have anything they want to share on emotional intelligence, which is really the foundation of quality leadership for organizations. So seems a little interesting that we would be talking emotional intelligence during a tech session. But the truth of it is, if you look at this slide deck, you can see social skills, self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation. You know, our experience is that we've got a technical question. I don't know if that's just Barbara or there's others. But our experience is these are the foundations of all good quality leadership. And that's really what builds quality organizations. is being able to up our game when it comes to emotional intelligence. So we share that. I'm seeing some people talking about anticipating needs, interpersonal relationships. Fundamentally agree that these are real important things for all of us to work on as leaders and professionals to continue to scale that up. So I'm working to make strides in this every single year and am more diligent than ever in doing so. And I love, servant heart and leading with service is so important in everything we do. One awesome book that is great on emotional intelligence and mindset is Carol Dweck's book called Mindset. So you might even consider taking a peek at that. Go ahead and we'll rock and roll to the next slide, which you can see here. This Forbes quoted the growth mindset, sharing that 80% of senior executives in the United States believe that employees' growth mindset contribute to revenue growth. And it's not just revenue growth, it's economic growth as a whole. It is actually the quality of the organization that you're building, the products and services that you're bringing to market, and your team and your retention of your team all start with a growth mindset. So we will go ahead and start to deep dive into our next slide, which is 2005 AI. Exciting stuff. So 2025 and artificial intelligence is definitely a big conversation topic in this year for business and its value for companies. So this is why we started out with the emotional intelligence, was just kind of to open our minds and understand that a lot of our technology can be a little overwhelming and intimidating, if we're being honest. And nobody knows everything about all of it, right? I've been doing this, our family legacy of technology goes back to the 1960s with a caller ID patent in the family. And it goes through to starting in the .com industry, building an enterprise web hosting company in the late 90s. One of the first internet companies that there was in Silicon Valley, one of the first web hosting companies. So I'll tell you, even back then, people were like, whoa, nobody can bank online. This is crazy. This is, very insecure. And talking about emerging technologies back in the 90s through today has really brought a lot of things to mind in terms of mindset, and watching people push back against change, be overcome by fear. I encourage you, if you take away one thing from this session today, it's embrace it, because it has consistently shown the value to us over and over again, whether it's the internet at large, social media, or today, artificial intelligence. Yes, there are some concerns around it. That being said, the value it brings is enormous. So we'll go ahead and move to key data points for 2025 for artificial intelligence. So this is some interesting data that you can see here on AI and its impact on the global economy, really, in a lot of ways. But it's interesting because I'll hear people say, oh man, it's going to take all of our jobs, and the fascinating thing is people were saying that when Henry Ford rolled out the assembly line, right? Oh, this is going to take all our jobs and kill our economy. And it actually did the exact opposite of that. And we can give a lot of examples around that. And if you look at the data on it in these data points, you can see that job creation, that's the third bullet down there. By 2025, which is this year, AI will be potentially eliminating 85 million jobs, which we're watching it do every day. And it will also be creating 97 million new ones. And the delta there is in our benefit from an economics and job creation standpoint. And so really, in a way, it's leveling all of us up. Darren, you look like you had something you wanted to share.
Well, I was going to ask you, Shauna, so like I'm a small, let's just call myself like a retailer. Like why should I be using AI? Why should or is there things that I should think of prior to using AI as a small business owner?
awesome question. And we will cover a little bit of that. Yes, the number one thing you should be thinking about is security and controls. Because when you run AI in your environment, you're potentially opening yourself up to a lot of liability and a lot of compromise of your own data and intellectual property. And we're going to get into the benefit that it can bring you as a smaller business owner, all the way up to an enterprise. Great question there. But you can see that quote there in the lower right, that AI is going to power everything from innovation to cybercrime, and the divide between those who are prepared. So hats off to all of you for being here today to get prepared. Whether this is the beginning of your journey or you're a seasoned pro, AI-driven solutions are going to be the next gen of business. And those who are not going to get prepared and get educated are going to get caught off guard, and they're going to have more trouble growing. Benny Albert in the audience said, Elon says 80% of jobs will be lost by AI 2030. Is he correct? You know, I'm not one to battle Elon. Interestingly enough, I did beat him at his own game back in the 90s for 1 year when I got hired on with that web hosting company, and he was applying to Netscape and as an intern, and unfortunately did not make it. Elon's made a few more strides than we have in the last 30 years, but wouldn't change it for the world. And, you know, it's hard to say. You can't pinpoint the exact data, but yes, it will be creating more opportunities for better, more powerful positions for the human intelligence, for us humans, which is awesome. And it's truly nothing to be intimidated or concerned about. So let's talk about what Darren was just referring to, which is 5 ways to leverage AI to boost sales. So this is one of numerous applications. We will be getting into the numerous applications in our boot camps through, you know, in bite-sized pieces. But really, the sales and marketing and graphic design, and you name it, is all getting fundamentally changed. That being said, I leverage a lot of AI, and I reached out to President Carrie Reiser for some work. She's in the room here. She does graphic design and web design, and has a phenomenal local company here. And we do that as well in a different lane. But I reached out to her to work through some graphics for a new entity. So, you know, I want that personal touch. And I'm sure that graphic designers these days are leveraging AI. And if they're not, they're probably they probably should be, or to some extent or another. So yeah, and definitely putting it behind sales engines with CRMs, with marketing programs, nurturing those relationships gets a whole lot easier when you have automation built into that. That's kind of what I was referring to with the Hyatt. They have automation built into some of the things that they're doing so they can get questions answered real quick. And a couple more data points here is, you know, the good and the challenging of AI. So you can see here that 72% of leaders, everybody's like, woohoo, regard AI as a business advantage with it, which is no doubt. 84% of companies see it as a competitive advantage. There's no shortage on data or statistics regarding its impact and the adoption of it, especially in this year. 47% of executives say that fully integrating cognitive projects with existing systems and processes are the biggest hurdle of AI initiatives. And basically what that means is, as you're implementing AI, like Darren was referring to, because there's a lot of different ways to go about it, you really need to make sure that you have a team that understands what your current infrastructure is and how it's going to operate in your environment. And I say you really need to be sure, because all of your private data and information gets very much compromised and put at risk when you use certain AI tools. And a lot of people don't realize that. I can tell you story after story. We've got, you know, a little bit of a limit of time here. But the truth is we can actually hit the next slide, because that's a great segue into that, which is, you know, you can see on the left side of your screen, the traditional hacker or cyber criminal in the hoodie is, that's a real threat and concern. They don't all look like Mr. Hoodie Man, but that's a traditional way that compromises are happening. And whether or not the audience knows, I feel like I've been preaching this from the mountaintops for years. We have built one of the most phenomenal, with some great leaders of industry, cybersecurity solution and software stack to protect companies. But that being said, if you're not prepared and proactive about this, cybersecurity right now is the single largest threat to all companies, small, medium, and large. There is no other threat or concern. If you're not investing in cybersecurity software, talk to somebody who can educate you on that. Do not buy software for cybersecurity on the web, because oftentimes that's designed by hackers or cyber criminals. We do some sessions on a lot of sessions on cybercrime and prevention and awareness. So definitely reach out to our team. Somebody is always available within a couple minutes, 24/7. Happy to have any discussions around this if you want to get smart. Because you can see now we're going from the traditional cyber criminal, as generative AI has been rolling out and getting more powerful and more widely adopted. You can see on the right our AI friend here, who is not human in the hood. And, he's a kind of a rendition of a robot. And that is actually a symbol of us deploying AI in our environments without understanding what its ramifications are. And it is very important, because all roads lead to security and controls. You need to be sure you're buttoning up your environments, you're running regular penetration tests. And again, stories of employees pulling confidential information about the executive teams of their organizations. We see this day in and day out. Not only do we see cybercrime coming from all over the world to take down organizations that don't have security in place, we are also now seeing it through AI that companies are using for productivity and good reason, taking them down as well. So does that kind of answer your questions on that, Darren, or you got anything else you want to touch on?
Let me ask one question. So I don't want to call out any specific AI type of product out there, but there's a lot of free apps that many of us might use just to help draft emails and different things. Do we need to have this type of protection in even before we use some of that? Or should we just be very careful with what information we submit as part of, when we're typing in, obviously we don't want to include any personal information, employee type information, but are there other things that we should do before we're even using those free apps?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's my analogy there, right? And I take this in jest, that if my daughter came to me and said, I know we've got seatbelts and all this, but I drive safe, and I don't really think I need to wear one. Do we really have to put the seatbelt on? Or, since I'm a safe driver and I go the speed limit, is that okay? Absolutely. You have to have the security infrastructure in place, because you do not know what these applications are doing. And they are very powerful, because they're leveraging, the developers of these apps are leveraging technology that some of them don't even know inside out and backwards. And I won't get into all the technical specifics, but the foundation of a lot of this is very highly technical. I love my colleague out of Chicago, Tyler Wallace. Nod to you. AI is free for a reason, right? So think of all the things, i.e. illicit substances. There are things that we get free, and there's a reason that they are. They're either trying to get into our networks, or they are trying to get our data and information, or trying to sometimes earn business, but that is also kind of fully loaded. So great question, Darren. I love that you bring that up, because it is so important before you start downloading these apps, and definitely putting any client or private data or information. And even more importantly, for some of the larger organizations, before your team members are doing that, it is key that you have an understanding of what your actual cybersecurity footprint looks like and what the liabilities and concerns are around that. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. This is, our economy is going strong right now by all indicators, and small business plans with artificial intelligence and machine learning. So this is really referring to what are people doing with AI today, right? This is Capterra's data, and it references right now about 30% of organizations in 2025 at this first quarter are using AI based on this poll. And 33% of them are planning on using it within the next 12 to 18 months. So this just kind of gives you an idea of the broad general market, business market. About 23 are evaluating it right now. There might be some people on this call that are like, I'm not sure how it's going to work, what I need to do. That's a question everybody has had just within recent years. And some people are using it and leveraging it for really good stuff for their companies. And then, there are some people that are not planning on evaluating it, about 12%, which that number continues to diminish. And then a couple that just aren't sure, that are just trying to kind of wrap their heads around it. So you can see that's a pretty staggering number, though. 33% are looking to use it and leverage it and improve their business processes, improve their management of their data. They're looking to grow their revenue, cut their expenses, and improve their bottom lines as a result. And it's a phenomenal tool to do just that. So the next slide really talks about why AI, and really it's because it's very efficient. In its basic terms, AI has been around since the 70s. And the reason why is because it's automation. It's been around since the 70s. It has not been widely used. And really until ChatGPT or OpenAI brought ChatGPT to market, it really was not as widely used until the generative and Llama 3.1, started getting rolled out. Then that's when these developers were able to leverage the power of it and really save us time. And time is our most precious resource, above and beyond everything else. Is that buying back that time and improving our bottom line is key to growing our companies. So if you're not working with a technology provider that has AI experience or can lead and guide you and consult you on this, you might consider doing that, because there's a lot of companies out there that are. And we definitely have a lot of experience around this and helping provide strategy and guidance on how it can benefit your organization. So we'll go ahead and go to our next slide, which is, there's a lot of feedback around artificial intelligence and its impact on humanity. And I'll share with you a quote from Alphabet and Google in a minute. But right here is Tim Cook, and some of you might know who Tim is, but he says, what all of us have to do is make sure we are using AI in a way that is for the benefit of humanity, not the detriment, right? And that's, again, when we talk about securities and controls, when we talk about education and awareness, it's just taking it in bite-sized chunks and getting smart on it so we can leverage it and use it for the best. It is a tool, and it's the choices, how it gets deployed and how we manage it is really up to us. So it is a tool that brings a lot of benefit all of our way. And you can see here, Alphabet's CEO, Sundar Pichai, says artificial intelligence will have a more profound impact on humanity than fire, electricity, and the internet. We're just going to sit with that for a minute. I was astounded when I first read that quote. And I have heard it said that it will actually be more impactful than the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and the information revolution combined. So that is well beyond anything that I can process. But what I do know is I'm watching enterprise companies deploy this and roll this out, and the things that I'm seeing it do are remarkable. So for small tasks that can be easily automated, it empowers humans to have better positions at their companies and bring more value to the businesses. If those smaller tasks can be managed securely, safely, and intelligently, it can have a great impact. I mean, again, fire, electricity, and the internet is, that's kind of speaking right from the horse's mouth of innovation there. So we'll go ahead. If you want to, we're here to bring value and be of service, provide awareness and education. We do so with some incredible technology companies, but we invite you, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an executive, if you're an IT director, if you're an MSP, join us for our AI bootcamp because we're going to start to really work through some of these different tools, applications, and dig in and get smart. Darren Gale and Ricardo and Abraham here in the Economic Development Department and our great city have done a phenomenal job building an innovation center. And so we want to continue to level up that level of innovation, not just in Silicon Valley or San Francisco, but out in East County as well. And they've got, definitely the footprint and the place for that to happen. We have a lot of phenomenal tools and resources to bring to you as a leading AI managed service provider in this country on security and AI and best practices to scale and grow your business. So definitely encourage you to join us for that. We're just getting started rolling this community out. We really believe that community is a big foundation of growing good companies because you come together as humans and exchange information and learn and grow. We've seen that work very effectively, especially over the last 10 to 12 years through collaborative organizations. And that community really makes all the difference with all of us leveling up. So feel free to jump in and register for that. We have a VIP code on the screen for a free ticket. It's RBVIP. So you can grab that QR code or go to the URL at the bottom of the screen. If you want to learn more, at least that's just an option to do so. And then we'll go ahead and field some questions. I think our final slide is really just one of our core values at Redbox. We have 3. Extreme ownership is key, because you can't be in this industry without taking extreme ownership for your responsibilities and what you're doing and working with the team to get the job done. Definitely gratitude leads our core values. So I want to express gratitude to all of you for being here and for yourself to really dig in and get smart on all this. And then wow is our other core value, which is like we want to knock it out of the park and bring value to you in everything that we're doing, whatever that looks like. And so we're here for you for that. And our team is readily available. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. And if we're not the ones to solve the job, we'll send you and make a nice introduction to somebody who can in whatever regard that is to grow your company. But I'd be happy to field some questions. If I don't know if we're going to moderate those, or you tell me how you want to rock and roll with them.
We'll moderate them. Let's you can put them into the chat, or you can raise your hand and you can ask them live. So let me ask. I'll get us started. So someone asked her, hey, how do I use AI for human resources? But maybe let's step back a little bit more. Could you explain, Shauna, maybe a little bit of what AI we're using that we don't even realize? And I think maybe if you describe that might help someone understand a little bit more about how AI can be used. And I'll use one for an example. When you're driving in your car and you put an address in of where you want to go, and it gives you 5 different examples and different times. That's using AI technology, right, to determine what's the fastest, quickest way to get to a location. Could you use other examples like that? We kind of are using AI a little bit. You mentioned it started in the 70s, right?
Yeah, and that's a great example because some people say, oh, I don't know, I'm not ready for this. And I'm thinking, you've been using it for years. You just don't even know it. That is technically artificial intelligence. A lot of it is the predictive intelligence and the automation. So when we get in our car, y'all might have noticed at some point when you were using your smartphone, it started getting ultra smart and telling you where you were going to go in advance, right? Oh, you're headed to, the office. You'll be there in 12 minutes. So that is AI also along the same line of the maps. There's also, it's built into a lot of the high technology. It's built into a lot of marketing, which is, when you see targeted marketing, when you're searching for dog food on Google and then it's popping up in all your feeds and apps, there is an element of AI behind that. When you're using Siri, Alexa, the Google Voice one, whatever those are. They're all a little creepy and a little crazy. But the truth is, whether we know it or not, 4 out of 5 households are currently using AI to some extent or another. So it's probably a good idea that we get smart on it if we're using it and it's in our homes or riding along with us. It's collecting data on us for the better. So how about we collect a little data on that and get smart for and with it.
Abraham, I saw that we have one hand raised. You want to?
Yes, I think we got Joe Weber. She's got to unmute, and you can ask your question.
Actually, I was going to contribute to the comment Shauna just made, and that is whether it's your home thermostat, your web searching, the embedded tools, even in your smartphone. I mean, it is throughout our environment, wherever we stand, wherever we speak. So something to be aware of.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. That's it's very true.
Thank you, Joe, with Oakley Insurance. You know what I'll couple on that, if you're going to look anything up and do some research, that's what I get real excited about, is the people and the education. IoT, capital I, little o, capital T, is called the Internet of Things. And so what Joe was referring to with the thermostat, like the Nest, for example, there's an element of AI, but technically that's considered an IoT device. So that Nest, that Ring camera, those are connected through an IP address to the internet. They collect data on us, and then they provide that data in very friendly formats that help improve our lives. And that is sort of a version of AI. There's a kind of a lot of blending there between IoT devices and artificial intelligence, because it's a huge and very wide and broad topic that we can get into a little more.
We got a question in the chat. Sorry, Darren.
I was going to say, and Julie, we can get that quote to you for the value of time.
Got a question in the chat for Shauna / Redbox.
That was
sorry. Sorry, I didn't read that. Sorry.
Well, and I think Julie brings up such a great point. I mean, because really time is our most valuable resource above and beyond anything else. And the more that we can be intentional with that time and use it to the advantage, best use it, then we have an opportunity to make even greater impact and greater growth for our organizations.
And I think Julie might be from a local law firm, and I don't know if they're billable hours type folks, but if I recognize the name, Julie, thank you, from an East County family law group, if I remember correctly.
Treasured client of ours. We do a lot of work with legal services companies, and East County Family Law is fantastic. So.
So, so speaking of time, I mean, you brought up OpenAI, ChatGPT. I think most of us probably have that downloaded on our phone. I would just tell you, it's talk about a time saver. There's definitely opportunities, but I just want to highlight something that Shauna said is, many times I might be writing an email to a specific business that might have some confidential information. The last thing you want to do is to include that into your ChatGPT query, that they now have that information. And I think a key one for businesses is, as you're dealing with employees, the last thing you want to do is throw any type of personal information in there of your employee. And it's not that it's going to be something today, but I can just imagine the lawsuits that are going to come down the road 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and it might be sooner, where you've been writing an annual review and you put very detailed information about a person, even possibly without their name. So I just I encourage it. It's great. It definitely saves time, but you should always be careful about what type of information you throw into that query.
You are so spot on, Darren, because the problem is AI is just a big technology brain, right? Just a huge one, and it's learning from all of our input and information. And we are big fans of Copilot, which is Microsoft's ChatGPT, because it integrates with everything, and it does have more security and controls and is more protected. ChatGPT is out in the mass market. Everybody's uploading everything, and it's making Llama 3.1, which is its foundation, and its mama, it's making that very smart. And as a result, as that gets smarter with our data and information, it's all out there. And so there already are legal cases around that. There is legislation being built to protect that right now in DC. It's going to take a little while for that to roll out. But whether it's that, or if you don't have Copilot well managed and you start using that in your environment, it's a fantastic tool. We deploy that for organizations. We've got people who have come in after 2 weeks of vacation and hundreds of messages in their inbox, and Copilot says, Mr. Darren Gale, I hope you enjoyed your vacation. I just wanted to let you know, Abraham has an emergency and this needs tending to. This is priority 1. It's giving them a quick snapshot of the last, few hundred emails, what the top 3 priorities are, and the hot button issues that need to be responded to. Again, being mindful of time. AI note takers is another huge one. We do a lot of AI as a service and consulting work for companies. So we'll come in and evaluate what size and scope they are, what their goals are, and we're able to allow their secretary to maybe have a better position because the AI note taker can be taking those notes. The secretary can be more intentional about bringing more value to the group. And they get a phenomenal recap through their note taker. Again, those note takers are taking all our confidential information. So you want to be mindful of which ones you're working with and how.
I will tell you, if anyone has not used an AI note taker, it's absolutely amazing. It's definitely great. And I saw someone, I think we even have a note taker on here as one of our attendees, which is great. And, someone asked about the paid version of ChatGPT. I know I like it. I don't, but there's plenty of free stuff out there too. But, and I think there was a question. Was there another question, Abraham, that I missed?
Yeah, in the Q&A, can you talk about the importance of cyber insurance when using these technologies for small businesses?
Absolutely. I will get there in just one moment, Abraham. Let's finish up real quick with this conversation around how we best leverage ChatGPT or Copilot. Those are the 2 leaders, right? Copilot it really integrates with everything in your environment because it's taking your data. The most important thing to be mindful is using it to process information and feed you information as opposed to feeding it too much information, especially if you don't have it well managed, right? And then as time goes on, get it well managed so you can use it for your specific information, but make sure you're looking into that. Cyber insurance is key. If you don't have the cybersecurity infrastructure and controls in place, that means software and an actual strategy, then cyber insurance can be, the carriers are requiring that you have these various tools in place. And when I say tools, I'm talking multi-factor authentication, endpoint detection response, proactive AI-enabled cybersecurity tools that are prepared to manage all this influx of data and these threats. So the cyber insurance is core, and it's also really important because these carriers are educating the business market that if you don't have these tools in place, we're not going to pay out on your policy. And that's really important. So great question there is to get with your insurance professional and find out if they lead with cyber, if they have cyber experience, who their cyber carriers are. Since it is the single biggest threat to companies today, really important to make sure you are being mindful of the cyber crime and what the potential financial ramifications are with it.
I think we got a couple more questions here, Shauna.
Okay.
From Shannon, is it true that most apps are sharing our data and information with AI in some format, even when the service is paid for?
Yeah, at a baseline, thanks for your question, Shannon. Even though you're paying for the service, there's something with every application, including Zoom that we're using here today, called a EULA, an end user license agreement. And Zoom has told us through their EULA, if you look in the fine print, which is why we're not sharing any private or confidential information here today, that they own everything that's happening in this call right now. So if you look at your EULAs, that will tell you, I'm sure everybody has just plenty of time to read a 700-page fine print document, in between lunch and dinner there. But if you look at the end user license agreement, more or less, all of them will say that, yes, they have the rights to that data and information. Again, that's why when we're referring to ChatGPT, Copilot and or any of these other, thousands of apps that are rolling out, you really want to be mindful because you don't know who is operating and leading the companies and how mindful they are of the data that's behind that. We go into environments and run penetration tests for clients every day, a lot of them, and we can see who's being more mindful of their data and who's not. But the truth is 80 to 90% of businesses out there are not mindful with data and not really buttoning things up. And so there's a lot, when we looked at that slide earlier in the presentation, we talked about people and we talked about technology. The budgets are getting increasingly bigger for technology because this is bringing a lot of value to these companies, but it also needs to be managed. And there's an investment to that, and the return on it is great.
Perfect. I think we have 2 questions here. I'm going to go in the order they were asked. I mean, as we talked about this a little bit, but could you mention how their company can use AI? It doesn't say what kind of company to increase sales.
Love it. Come to our AI bootcamp because I could do I could run for an hour with that. Yes, it is from lead generation to list building to AI-driven CRM solutions to sales development reps that are making automated calls. We're watching it every day grow sales departments in record form. So happy to share about that. Just hit our AI bootcamp or reach out to us. We'll make some recommendations. It really depends on the size, the scope, the investment, that sort of thing.
Perfect. And we got one more here, and I know we got about like 5 minutes left, 4 minutes. But we mentioned AI note takers briefly. I know Zoom has a feature. Are there some that kind of pop out or you would recommend?
Yeah, the 2 leading business AI note takers right now, which are great, is Otter.ai and Fireflies.ai. Those are kind of the 2 leaders, if you will. Again, I would be very mindful before deploying those. I would make sure you check with your technology provider. If they don't know it, check with us to walk through kind of some best practices around deploying that, because it depends upon how confidential the information is that you're sharing in the meeting. Zoom does have one built in. There's more and more that are rolling out. We know the founder, of Otter. And so a lot of these tools have great impact and great results. I would not just willy-nilly, just kind of like I wouldn't willy-nilly deploying any other application really, or cybersecurity software. If you go to the internet, I noticed the other day I was doing some research, and one of the top cybersecurity providers was Kaspersky, is still coming up. And if you follow cybersecurity or anything in the news, you'll know Kaspersky is a Russian organization, and they do not offer to the United States cybersecurity in any way, shape, or form. So you can't always trust the technology. Just like when you use generative AI for images or text or anything else, you're not always going to get the same answer because it's just leveraging all the data that's on the internet. And so for videos, for graphics, you'll notice it puts out funny spellings, and it's not perfect. It's just like human intelligence. It's still learning and growing, and it's going to continue to do so and to evolve.
Thanks, Shauna. I don't have any, unless anybody's eager to raise their hand. I don't know if Darren, you want to provide some closing comments?
Yeah, just closing
Shauna.
comments. First of all, really appreciate Shauna. Number one, the city of Brentwood is excited to have a business like yours that's growing so fast, that's cutting edge, that's providing quality customer service, and right here in our community. So thank you to you and your team for picking Brentwood. And we hope some of the other businesses that are on today, if you're not here located, let me tell you, this is the great place to be. Of course, if you're in East County, we love you too. So be it in Oakley, Antioch, Pittsburgh, Discovery Bay, that we all do well together, and it doesn't have to be obviously right here. Economic development does not see jurisdictional boundaries. So once again, thank you for your time. This workshop will be on the city's website. And Abraham, if you could give me that URL again, off the top of your head.
Yes, I'll go ahead and drop it in the chat right now.
Great.
So folks.
And so you can go back and watch what was presented here. Also, if you have any ideas, if there's something that your business needs, trust me, there's probably another business here in town that needs it. So let us know. And then I'll end on one of my favorite things to say. So in economic development world, we're always trying to attract new employers to our community, and people get excited about new employers. But for myself, Abraham, and Ricardo, what really gets us excited is when we see a local small business grow from 1 employee to 2 employees, from 10 to 11, from 20 to 1, from going from their front room to the bedroom to the garage to an office space. And we will see a bigger impact in our community when we see those businesses thrive. So I know that we have those exact businesses I talked about here. And that's the purpose of this meeting. We want business retention expansion. We want you to be able to grow right here in our backyard. And obviously, we're next to the Silicon Valley, the peninsula, everywhere in the Bay Area. So thank you again, Shauna. And if you have any closing comments, I'll hand it off to you.
No, thank you. My pleasure. Again, the passion for people and technology coming together to do incredible things is really what we're dedicated to, and we're honored to be able to do so here in our great city and in the nation at large. So I just a shout out to our team. Our crew works so hard and just does such amazing work. So thank you for recognizing them, Darren. Appreciate that. And we're here for anything anybody needs.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Abraham.
Thank you.
Have a great day.